Here,
Thank you. Correct me on your name if you may.
it's Lunenborg.
Lunenburg. Wow, I'm gonna have to respell that. I'm gonna do that phonetically. All right, and thank you. So there's one. The Mayor Padilla,
Present.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
and Mayor Hernandez.
Present.
We do have a quorum, and we may proceed to approval of the minutes.
Okay, that was going to be my question, was if this was the approval of the agenda or approval of the minutes.
I don't even see approval of the agenda on the list, so, oh, wait a second, I'm reading last month, so, it's not on there, so approval of the minutes.
Okay, well then we'll move on to the next agenda item, which will be the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on June 26, 2024. If I can get a motion and a second to approve?
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pereira. Thank you for the second, Mayor Hernandez. So we have a motion that's been motioned and seconded. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any. So if we can get a roll call on the approval of minutes from June 26, 2024.
Yes, Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Lunenburg.
Yes,
All right.
You do have a
That,
majority.
The approval of the minutes is complete. Thank you so much for that. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is public input. Are there any members of the public that are in attendance for input?
Yes, there are. I'm waving over a member, and if you could read your name into the record, or speak your name into the record. Sorry.
Hi, David. Yes, my name is Elizabeth Hernandez. I'm a driver, and this year will be my 5th year of SCRTD.
Okay, please go ahead, Ms. Hernandez.
Sure. So basically, we're here because of our raises that we recently all got. All of us drivers are, and I believe you all got a letter last month. I don't know if, did it include the signatures of all our
Yes.
drivers? We have an update on that actually, because we did have one driver that wanted to sign and didn't get a chance to. We just kept missing over and we didn't have enough time to get him. So if you need that update, I have a copy of those, of that letter and those signatures, so that way he can be updated in emails that you may provide us. So basically, and let me grab something real quick. And I'm not just here for myself, I'm here on behalf of all the other drivers as well. So I have with me some comments from some of the drivers. So I don't know if you all need copies of that or they need to be emailed to any of the board members, but we can do that at any time. And if anybody here needs a copy right now, then we can go ahead and do that. Would you like that?
That's not necessary, but you can leave it for Veronica. She'll put it into the record.
Okay, sounds good. So we are thankful, for the raise that we did get. Although one of the reasons why I'm here is because we all, new drivers, the middle drivers, the 1-year-olds, the 2-year-olds, 4, 5, 6-year-old drivers, we're all kind of baffled as to why did you think that it was okay to even us all out with the same pay rate? And that the new drivers that you're going to hire are coming in at $17 an hour, and they can be non-CDL, so they're not professional, and we're all professionals. So we feel like we're being devalued at this point. And the older drivers really feel that we should be at a higher rate than the newer drivers. So this is a big issue with all of our drivers, and we're all in consent with this. So we want to know, is there a bigger picture, coming along, or what's going on? We all also feel that we're in the dark about a lot of things. We aren't told, like, when did the policy change that? Because when I got hired, it was 6 months, and I got $1 after my 6 months. We heard rumors that a couple years later, and I'm going to say maybe about 2 years ago, that policy apparently was changed to, or was going to be changed from the 6 months to a year, and from $1 to 50 cents. So none of us knew when that even happened. And so we're just now noticing that, that changed. So where was that policy? Where was it in writing that you all changed that? And so the other thing is that the ones that are 1 year old, they're possibly going to get another 50 cents when their year is up, which that's making them higher than the veteran drivers. So we want to know, what's going on with that? There's a lot of issues that we're not aware of and that weren't written down on paper. We want to know when one is being hired, what is the hiring rate? And then we want to know what's going to happen in the future. What is our max pay going to be? We want to know. We want to know. We as all the drivers that are there now, we want to know this, and we also wish that for the future drivers that are coming in. We'd like to know, what's going on there. Also, there's quite a bit of issues that we're all wondering. So, do you have an answer for that?
No, I'll answer. This is public comment, so we're taking it on public. What I can say to you being here, and this is a very important issue, we have agendized for next month the update to the Human Resource Manual. So we'll be presenting that. We'll also be presenting a pay classification study. Unfortunately, a lot of the communication that's being said, and some of what you just said today, is inconsistent with what is actually happening. So we want to get to that and have all the information out, and you're more than welcome to participate in that process next month. You also have access to human resources. Sarah Vasquez is here, so the answers to your questions can be answered if you ask them to the right people. As far as pay structures, you're quoting information from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. The last 3 years, we've been doing COLAs, and each of the last 3 budgets, we've added 5%. So all employees are getting that. No employee that's being hired now that gets 50 cents is going to make more money than a senior operator. Operators are making above the $17 level. I know Adam wanted to speak, but he's going to basically say that the average right now is $7.35 for any of the operators, because all operators got their COLA on top of any adjustments beyond the $17 an hour. And then we do go higher than that. We do post the pay range. I'm not sure. I think the last time I looked at it, was around $23 an hour on the top end. We are evaluating that in the pay adjustment as to how that might affect pay from other systems. We did average out the systems around the area, and right now we're the second highest paid in the region. One of the problems is when people do evaluate the salaries, they evaluate it based on the starting wage. You actually have to base your evaluation on total salary, which means how many hours a week you're making and how many hours a week you get paid for the year. Unfortunately, a lot of the comparisons that are made, this will come out of the pay classification study, are on part-timers. So if you look at Las Cruces, those are part-timers making 25 hours a week. They don't get paid anywhere near as much as the operators working for SCRTD.
Exactly.
But again, we'll get into all that. We'll give you all the slides, all the data, where you can get the information that we pulled together for this, and we'll have more time to do that. But today, this is just an opportunity to take in the information. I've shared with the board that this is something we will have a further discussion on.
Well, we did submit that information beforehand last month. And so we were to the understanding that, you know, we were going to be heard this month on that. So, I
It's just
mean,
not
here we are
agendized.
again,
We're
you know.
agendizing it for next month because the HR manual is what's reflected with the salaries. So if you want to look at the current salaries from the past that are still in effect,
Right, but
you
we're
can look
not
at
just
the HR
talking
manual
about
from
the
2 years ago when the
past.
board last approved it.
We're not just talking about the past because you have.
No, that's
you have
present. That's
one-year-olds.
present. Until the board approves a new HR manual, that's the current pay structure. We're actually above that right now.
And Mr. Hernandez, and
Go
I
ahead.
understand the concerns, and I think as David noted, is for, at the moment, it's for public input. I know that, as he's indicated, that we are planning to have it on the agenda for next month. And so I think I would ask if we are able to, you know, if there are questions that could be answered by the administration, then or the staff, then we can take those offline. But otherwise, I think in terms of the board, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's not something that's specific on the agenda, and we want to make sure we don't violate any Opens Meeting Act policies. So I apologize. I wasn't aware. I know I wasn't in attendance during the last meeting, but I know, speak from what David has said and we've spoken on, it will be the next agenda.
Okay. You did get a copy of that letter, correct?
I don't know if I did get a copy. I'd have to go back and look through my emails and see. But if you did want to send myself an updated letter, as you had noted, since it has a new signature on it, I would welcome that.
It was in the board packet last month.
Mr. Vice Chair, I did want to confirm that I did receive it in the board packet in the last month as well.
Thank you, Mayor Perea.
Okay, so then for sure, this will be able to be taken up next month, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I will agree to that.
We'd be happy to meet with you before if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other public input participants? Okay. Well, thank you for the public input. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Executive Director's Report Comment. Mr. Armijo.
I'm walking slowly to the podium. Good afternoon, David Armijo, Executive Director. I'll be making a brief presentation today. Let's see. I don't know if they can straighten that video out. The PowerPoint. There we go. So he's getting it fixed. All right, so he's working on that. I wanted to talk, just an overview of some of the newly awarded grants. I won't go into too much detail because I know there are presentations scheduled by Tim McDaniel today. He'll also be covering the SMART grant that we've submitted. We'll also show a little bit about the new Sierra County route that starts within the next 2 weeks. A new program that we're participating in called Fourth, which is a statewide energy charging company. I'll talk a little bit about our system ridership projected through the end of this month, and a pay study, which is what we briefly were talking about, but now that is on the agenda, so maybe we can talk about it there. This is one of our newer buses that came in back on, I think, April 29th. We already have put that into service. We have 2 of those. At our previous meeting, I did mention we had a problem with the controller, so one of the buses has been parked for about 2 months. We got the equipment this week and got that fixed. Again, everybody continues to talk about the pandemic, so we're still having parts and issues. I did want to focus on that with the 5339, which is our bus and facilities grant. We brought in federal funds, $2.4 million We also participated in the New Mexico matching, so we got the local match to match that. That's the 455,262 that's shown there. So those buses will be paid for, that grant will be paid for by 100% of federal and local and state funds for the local match. And then the 5307 funds, this is our third grant that goes in effect this year from fiscal year 2024. Unfortunately, the federal funds dropped from 711,000 to 630. 149 because when they updated the census for the region, we found that the area of southern New Mexico and El Paso will receive less funds. In the case of Sun Metro, I believe it's about a $1.4 million reduction in funding. So the region will be losing a substantial amount of money, and that's really going back to the fact that not everybody got counted in the census. So we actually showed fewer people with the new census than they were 10 years ago, which is really unfortunate. Hopefully that'll be corrected in the future. But with that said, we get operating capital money. We also got a second New Mexico matching grant of 278, 160,000 that is operating, the balance is capital. So that's really going to help our budget for the coming year. It will affect the way we plan for operations as well as the capital for those projects. Then last on the list is STPL funds, and it was in a meeting we had last week with folks with El Paso MPO, the cities of Anthony, Santa Teresa, excuse me, not Santa Teresa, Sunland Park, and the state, and there was CMAQ money left over. So we kind of bartered a little bit between the four parties. The grant that nobody seemed to be able to put money up for was the STP. 490,000 they thought was going to be too little to do anything with it. So we said we'd take it. And so that money will go to a solar array that we will place on the new Sunland Park facility. And what that will do is it'll allow us, and I don't want to get too much ahead of Tim talking about it, but it'll give us an opportunity to pay for the electric power that we'll be using from that facility. So all these funds that you're looking at, 100% paid. This is the best year we've ever had. It's about a $4 million bump in our overall operating and capital grants going forward. Smart grant, I'm going to leave the details to Tim. What I can tell you is we're working on a grant again. This is 100% federally funded, so even a local match will be funded. It's phase one of two phases, but it's an opportunity that eventually will lead, as you can see, a phone there that will have a kind of an app that can cover different things and services that we have in our region. We're kind of excited about that. I'll let Tim do a little more detail on that. The Sierra County route, this has been coming for a very long time. I'm sorry Meiji could not be on the line with us today. She is helping a cat go through some surgery and healing, and it's interesting she said cat because she was saying about barking. I don't know, maybe she has a dog with her and the cat. Anyway, they're in the car, so she decided not to call in because she didn't think she could maintain the drive back to Sierra County and deal with any noise on that. So we're sorry to miss her on this, but we'll certainly make sure she's out there the first day. So we're starting a week from Monday. I think is that August the 5th? Okay, August 5th. On the page, you can see a little bit of the route. This route will connect from the Sierra County line. As you can see, if you can see on the map, you can see it coming all the way up from the lake, Elephant Butte, TRC, and then working its way all the way down to the bus shelter that's located in Williamsburg. End of the line, then it'll come down and work its way into Hatch, where it'll make a connection there with the green route. The two routes will connect. The green route will then take people into Las Cruces and other areas. Bifurcating the route into two pieces allowed us to run more service with less equipment, less drivers, staying up in the Sierra County area. So we're really excited about that. The signs went up last week. We're already getting calls. We are advertising in the Sierra County Sentinel. Yeah. Here's another photo of that. So yes, we've been working on, and we had interviews. It looks like we've picked up some drivers. So we'll be able to handle the route. We've also got the vehicles. A second vehicle was resolved or fixed. So the system's coming together. This is probably one of the greatest challenges we've ever had. I was explaining this to my wife yesterday, that when we started the route, I actually let the staff go out and plan for this route. This is the only route that's been planned outside of my realm. So the staff actually went out, they identified the stops, they went out and did the look-through. Tim came on board, he worked with staff on the scheduling, and we went back and forth, and we're still going back and forth because we have a number of people that will be riding it on both ways. I would only caution the board to understand that it takes about 2 years to build a route. When we started the Hatch route, the ridership was pretty tough that first 18 months, but it grew. It's now the 4th highest ridership route in the system of the 7. This will now bring us to 8 routes. We now have comparable number of routes as the Roadrunner has. Roadrunner has 8 routes, we have 8 routes. So we will actually pass Roadrunner in miles with this route this year, as we're now producing more service and more to the region. So being able to go north to south is crazy. As we've said historically, Sierra County is the only route along the corridor in its way to Socorro and up to Santa Fe. Now the gap is Socorro to Sierra County. Thankfully, that's not part of our jurisdiction. I'll leave it to others to figure that one out. But we'll have taken it all the way. I measured it coincidentally the other day because I was coming in from northern New Mexico, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and it takes roughly 2 hours from the northern Sierra County line to the line at Sunland Park and El Paso. So roughly 120 minutes. I'm not sure how the miles work out because I was driving a little faster than norm, but it's a lot of miles. So it's going to be kudos to the operators, the staff, dispatchers, and everyone. We're going to have to grow our way into that. So I just say be patient on the ridership, give us time. I'm sure we'll figure out what we missed after we get started. We can always add more stops. So, but we'll want to make sure that the system works. Advertising, I didn't have a chance. This is the ad, as you can see the picture, that went in the Sentinel 2 days ago, I believe. So, today? Okay, yeah, we made the deadline. The next 2 weeks, we're going to actually feature the bus schedule itself or something along those lines. But they're going to advertise it as a takeaway so they can pull it out or do something. So we'll work with the folks over there. The cost is not that much. We're already getting calls from people interested in including at least one driver. So as time goes on, I think this will build up more interest. Fourth Mobility is a very interesting company. I'm still learning about it. Are you going to present on that, Tim? No. Okay, this is it, right? So they're trying to expand charging stations across the state. They've asked us, we're working on a contract where we'll get paid a little bit to help facilitate some of the connections with people in the Las Cruces area. So they've got different spots, different parts of the state. I don't think this will be an expense to us, maybe a break even, but I thought it'd be in our best interest. So we'll put this on our website. We'll play up the issues of communication, working with Roadrunner, the city of Las Cruces, even the county, and see what we can do to help identify those areas where there are charging stations. And there's one right here in the county. And of course, they're over at the city of Las Cruces. So hopefully we can use this as leverage. I know the governor's new legislation goes in effect in 2026 to try to get more vehicles in the state. So you can get vehicles, but can you charge them? So this is the part that connects to that. And then lastly, I projected the ridership with the first 3 weeks of the month. Ridership has grown every week this month. So we're a little bit lower than our highest number back, I think that was in May, but in June was a little bit off, there were fewer days, but I am projecting about 12,000. So we're at 105,000 for the year, which is already, with 2 months to go, is more than we carried during the fiscal year last year, which was 101,000. So even if we just do 10,000 a month, we're looking at 125. I think we might reach 130,000 rides. So when you look at this chart and you look at how far we've come, and I give kudos to Loretta and I were the ones that were here at the beginning, followed by Elizabeth and Betty. There you go. I think we've come a long ways, and thank you all for coming out today, because this is the kind of thing that, you know, I will tell you, there's a reason we're number one in the state 2 years in a row, both in cost and in ridership. We have been one of the few agencies to move through. You can see that 2020 was the year of the pandemic, and that was the only year that our ridership fell. It doesn't speak to the fact that we are also carrying the migrants and dealing with other things, which, by the way, they didn't allow us to add those rides. Had they, that would have added 15,000 rides. So we would have actually been right on a par with 2010. But the state wouldn't let us put those numbers in the NTD, which I'm not sure I understand why. But I follow the rules, so there you go. But this is something I'm very proud of for all of us. I think continuing to progress, and I think now with the Sierra County, other stops, and we're looking at more bus shelters in the coming years. So there's a lot of activities that we're working on that will make a big difference in the future. Pay study. If we can go back a few months, there was a genesis. Even last year, we talked that in the fall of 2022, there was a statewide study on pay for all classifications, everything from bus drivers, cleaners, dispatchers, even up to the executives, general managers. We did not bode well in that study, and I know I brought this to the attention of the board last year, but I know our funding was difficult, and the most we could do was the 5% in the last 2 years, and now 5% again this year. So our hope would be to begin to close the gap. The regional pay study, which we'll present next month, will give a lot more information. It's important to separate between the private and public driver positions, because the private operators, the school districts, they do very well with the hiring of the starting wage, but they don't provide the benefits. And so it's really apples and oranges when you make those comparisons. So really, in the public eye, we're looking at Sun Metro to El Paso. We're looking at Roadrunner and us. And if I may say so, when we first started, we used Roadrunner as our benchmark. Roadrunner kind of pushed forward 2.5 years ago when they raised their salaries for starting well above what we could afford. At the time, we were doing like 16, and well, actually, we're going from 15 to 16, now 17, and they went all the way up to 19 and a half. That was very difficult. But those are part-time operators. They do not get benefits, and they only get PETA, retirement. So they graduate those into full size. So if you're able to wait a year or two, you might move up, and maybe that's not bad. I think what we want to do is close the gap. And that'll be a discussion. I will give the board a financial plan, what it would take for us to get there. When we compare ourselves to Sun Metro, which is at the bottom of the barrel, we're only above them by maybe a half a buck, something like that. It's very close. They struggle to get operators, and you get what you pay for. I think their benefits, never really done a pay classification on that. We'll have to look at it. Texas is different. I know El Paso has its own retirement system. It's not like PERA. And so I don't think it has the benefits that we have in New Mexico. Plus, we have better healthcare benefits because we're all one thing, and El Paso's separate. So that's going to require a little more effort for us to evaluate that. The school districts are very different because the best one I always use as an example is the Canutillo. Canutillo actually has their own employees. They're not contracted. They're not like First Trans or something like that. And when Canutillo, they hire them on for 185 days, which is 6 months. So it's part-time. They're working 4 to 6 hours a day at max. So their pay, even though it's $22 an hour, they make much less than our operators would make. So we have to look at the full spectrum of that. And I think more importantly, from a financial plan, how do we get to parity with Roadrunner, and how do we, where does that take us in the future? Plus, it's not just the operators. We have to look at all the positions and how that goes. We took the example this last year for this fiscal budget to bring everybody up. So a lot of the entry-level jobs all went to 17. So we're actually trying to bring everybody to be more competitive. And so several people did get, some positions did get a pretty good adjustment, but I think it makes us more marketable. So we have to look at that, and we'll take the board through it as we go through each of the classifications. And I think it's a bigger picture. I don't know that we'll make a decision next month on this, but I think we'll certainly give the board some ideas of where we think the future could take us. And of course, with that is the financial challenges. As the board knows, we've struggled the last few years. We're finally coming in. Adam's going to make a presentation. He's going to be able to show that we do have a little bit of a surplus. It's still pretty tight, but things are looking better. Are there any questions? All right, so the key to that presentation is we'll bring you the Human Resources Manual as an update. Typically, what I do with the board is I bring you the item, we present it, and then we come back the following month for approval. So I'm assuming that we'll bring it to you, have further discussion in August, and then come back in September for approval. And then if we have to make any adjustments, I think, Adam, you would look at the next time on the budget would be first quarter. So that would most likely be October. Yeah, okay. With that, we'll turn it over. Any last questions? We'll move on to the next item.
Okay, then are there any questions for Mr. Armijo? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, then we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is a discussion and resolution approving the final amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget. Mr. Shea, good
Thank you, sir.
afternoon.
And welcome to all our board members. This is the presentation. My name is Adam Shea. I'm the finance officer for South Central Regional Transit District. This particular presentation is for the final amendment of the fiscal year 2024 budget. Very first item on the page is expenses. There are several accounts which have gone over the budgeted amounts as of the end of the year. These adjustments amount to $55,919.07, which, as you can see, amounts to zero after the movement of those amounts. Second, on the next page is the revenue adjustment requested, and that requires an increase in the amount of $204,234.85. This amount is specifically for the 2024 grant for the 5307, which we received through the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration. The smaller amount of $350.85 is for interest earned and 2 minor revenue increases or items. And finally, on the third page is the capital. And there are no amendment requests at this time for capital. That's my presentation as far as amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Other board members, are there any questions? Okay, not hearing or seeing any. If that's the case, then I'll ask for a motion, a second, to approve this final amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Mr. Chair, I so move, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor Murillo.
Mayor Murillo.
I will second the motion.
Mayor Hernandez will second.
Okay, there we go. Then I'll take the second from Mayor Hernandez. All right, then if we can get a roll call, David, please.
Yes, thank you. Mayor Hernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Padilla.
Yes.
And then Trustee Lunenburg.
Yes.
I'll get it before we're done. Thank you.
And do we need Mayor Murillo to?
Oh,
vote
yes,
on
I'm
this?
sorry. I forgot she came in the room. Mayor Murillo. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Now you're on my list.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, David. All right, then we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is a discussion and resolution approving the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2024. Mr. Shea.
Again, thank you very much. The following is the presentation for the fiscal year 2024 financials. As you can see on page 1 is our cash balances, and their amounts to be $395,556.64 in our bank account as of June 30th. These funds are for from the fiscal year 22 capital items received through the 5307 FTA, as well as operating funds that were available for the fiscal year 23 year funds from the FTA as well. This amount will be used to pay outstanding payables for capital items as they come. Next item is expenditures. A total of $2,492,023 has been processed which amounts to 94.3% of the $2,641,288.67 budget. The breakdown, as you see, amounts to the following. Personnel services, 99.3%. Employee benefits, 91.1%. Travel and maintenance, 87.1%. Supplies, 60.4%. Insurances, 64.6%. Projects, 79.9%. Contractual services, 91.4%. And operating costs of 95.9%. Are there any questions so far?
Board members, any questions? Does not sound like it.
Okay, thank you. The next section has to do with the revenue. A total of $2,549,821.21, or 84.7% of the budgeted amount of $3,012,157.25 was received, with an additional $209,597.21 billed out as of the end of this year, or fiscal year 24, pardon me. That's all that has to do with the revenue portion for the 24 budget. Are there any questions so far?
Any questions on this slide, board members? Okay. I don't hear any. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final slide has to do with the capital. A total of $1,108,406.18, or 29.1% of the budgeted $803,207.42 was received, with an additional $641,953.44 billed out. The amount of $365,719 you see there is available to draw down at any time to pay for our ongoing projects, such as an administrative vehicle, an automatic passenger counting system, solar canopies for electric buses on order, an additional bus stop shelter refurbishing, and some additional projects for our Sunland Park facility, like security equipment, new garage doors, and short-range planning for our Sunland Park facility. Are there any questions?
Any questions, board members? Okay, does not see like there are any on the capital appropriations.
Thank you. And that concludes my presentation on the financials for fiscal year 2024, fourth quarter.
Thank you, Adam. Board members, are there any questions? Final questions before we move to approval? Okay, if I can get a motion to approve Resolution 2502, which is approving the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 24.
Mr. Chair, I so move. Mayor Murillo.
Thank you, Mayor Murillo. I will second that motion. Okay. David, if I can get a roll call, please, on the resolution.
Thank you. Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
It passes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, agenda item number 9, which is a discussion and resolution approving the fiscal year 2025 annual budget. Mr. Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Following is the presentation for the fiscal year 2025 budget. First slide has to do with personnel. We have added several new positions since our last presentation, one being the Manager of Procurement and Risk Management, also an Executive Assistant. We've also have a space for another mechanic and 3 new drivers. One which is to replace an existing driver since they left, and 2 for the new blue route, which we hope to start next month. Next page has to do with expenditures. Expenses have changed a bit too since our last presentation. We are asking for $3,015,565.10 in expenses, which have increased 14.2% from last year. This is broken down as follows. Personnel, 25.03%, which includes 5% COLA. That was approved last month. Employee benefits is 12.29% over last year for a total of $525,279.69. Travel and maintenance, 4.69% increase for a total of $394,590. Supplies, that's a decrease of 1.21% for a total of $33,380. Next is insurance. That is an increase of 12.87% for a total of $35,143. I'd like to pause right here. There was a question why the increase over last year. We found out that it was due to vehicle value increases as well as the losses incurred, and a 25% discount was added this year instead of 50% due to losses in the liability lines of coverage. That was the explanation that was provided to us by our insurance agents. I hope that answers questions regarding that increase. Next section has to do with projects, an increase of 50.98% for a total of $39,000. Contractual services, which is an increase of 2.53% for a total of $133,221.33. And finally, the operating cost, which is actually a decrease of 36.43% over last year for a total of $119,421.15. So far, does anybody have any questions?
Board members, any questions on the expenditures for the fiscal year 2025? Okay, I'm not hearing anybody, so please go on.
Okay, the next section has to do with the revenue. Under the revenue, we are asking for the approval of a total of $3,121,248.72, which would give us a net over expenses of $105,683.62. Finally, under capital, this category is the largest we have had since our doors opened. We are asking for a total of $8,879,612.14, which is primarily for the purchase of the Sunland Park facility and a number of new buses, personnel training, and electrification projects to be included. That completes my presentation for the fiscal year 2025 budget. Are there any questions?
Board members, any questions on the new fiscal year budget?
So what will be the surplus again?
Surplus would be $105,683.62.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Shea, just a question on the fare box, and I know we've, at least from what we've anticipating from the county's contributions to the SCRTD, I believe, are we planning to go through the entire fiscal year fare-free this year, or is that only going to be good through the end of the calendar year?
It's actually to the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
The 38,000 that's shown there is what we show to pick up again come January.
Okay. And so that would be, we would just have to come up, if from that, for that $38,000, either from surplus or another contribution in order to go the entire fiscal year as fare-free?
Correct.
Okay.
If I may, Commissioner, if I may,
Yes.
may I interject something? So we had hoped that the state would issue us our MOU, which is our contract for the coming year. We know we got awarded funds back in June, but it did not include our inner-city funds. Adam, myself, and Tim traveled about a month ago for 2 days of meetings with the New Mexico DOT staff, senior staff. They did announce that they approved a request that I had made for more money on the inner city. I anticipate that's going to be a minimum of 50,000 additional funds, which would match 100,000. So we'll take that into account and any other funds we think we're going to get from the state. And that would be something, and that's why I mentioned the thing a moment ago. We can have that dialogue in the next board meeting and or thereafter. If we feel that the funds coming in, and Adam will have to ask for that amendment to increase, to bring those funds in, that would change the line item of the surplus. And so that could give the city, give us, our organization, the opportunity to take in adjustments, meaning more specifically that if we wanted to do the free fare until June 30th next year, we could match that up out of those funds. And so we would reduce the surplus by those 38,000, or we will reduce it against the additional intercity funds we think we're going to get. So I'll turn it back to Adam, but I just wanted to share that with you. So I hate to say this is a moving target, but and I'll make my last comment that if you take into account the presentations that have been made so far and the ones that have yet to come from Tim McDaniel, we're bringing in about $4 million of capital. You add that into the $3 million plus on this budget that Adam is asking you to approve. This $7 million represents 10 times the budget that this board approved in 2017.
Wow.
So I wish Nora was here. That's my last comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. And so I guess if I'm understanding correct, I think what you're recommending is that maybe we wait at least until the next meeting so that we do have the approval or acceptance of those funds, and then we can take maybe have discussion as the board to determine what to do with that, if that might be something we want to continue.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that, David, and thank you, Adam.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions on the budget that's been presented? Okay, I'm not hearing any. Then what I'd like to do is see if I can get a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget.
So move, Mayor Murillo.
Thank you, Mayor Murillo.
Kathy Lunenberg, second.
Thank you, Ms. Lunenberg. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget. All right, David, if I can get a roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
It passes.
Very good. Thank you, board members. Okay, we're on agenda item number 10. It's a discussion and resolution approving the Venus Grant Award of $2,890,148 of a federal grant for the Venus Electric Charging Station Bus Facility Project. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. McDaniel.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Today, we get to share an update on the FTA 5339 bus grant application that we applied for in April. So SCRTD applied for the FTA 5339 bus and bus facilities grant in April 2024 with approval of this board. Staff is happy to report that we were selected for funding for this project. And on the next slide, you'll see a refresher of the proposed project and what was awarded. So you can see that right here. The total amount for the grant is $2.8 million, with $2.4 million in federal funds requested and $455,000 in local match required, which it was granted to us. And then here you'll see this is the proposed location of the new facility. The land is currently jointly owned by the city of Las Cruces and Doña County. And while we have budgeted for purchase of this land, we are hoping to work with our partners with the city and county on a transfer or reduce costs on the land, so we can redirect some of those funds into more improvements on the property. Part of the request was also for a new hybrid bus to support expanded service out of the newly proposed facility. And the newly proposed facility on Venus would allow for better connections for residents of Doña County to other SCRTD routes and to Roadrunner transit routes within town. Cost savings and lower deadhead time and lower downtime would also result from the new facility. So we're quite excited about this. And then once again, this is the proposed timeline that we submitted for the project. We are hoping to be quite aggressive with the process in order to spend the grant in a timely manner. You can see it would start procurement next month and hope to end sometime in 2026 with construction. And then part of the grant as well was a workforce development apprenticeship program that would run from the opening of this facility for the following year. Once again, this grant consists of $2.4 million in federal funding. $455,000 in local match is also required. However, in the next item, you'll see this. Staff applied for and was awarded a match fund grant from the New Mexico DFA. So this grant will actually be 100% covered by federal and state funds. This is no obligation from our general fund. And then with that, I'm here to answer any questions on the first part of this item.
Thank you, sir. And just for clarity, as you had mentioned, Mr. McDaniel, I know what agenda item number 11 is those matching funds from DFA as noted. But here we are I know for the grant award. Are there any questions from the board members regarding this grant, the plans for the monies?
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Thank you, Mayor Padilla. We have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second, Mayor Murillo.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Mayor Murillo. Oh, sorry, a motion by Mayor Padilla and a second by Mayor Murillo. All right. If there are no comments or questions, then I'll ask for a roll call of agenda item number 10.
Yes, thank you. Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes, and happy that we don't have to pay that match grant, right? Awesome.
And the item passes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, then now to agenda item number 11, discussion resolution approving $455,261 of a New Mexico matching grant award for the Venus Electric Charging Station Bus Facility Project. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you, Chair. So once again, as stated previously, this item is for a match fund from the New Mexico DFA. We did apply for that and it was awarded. So the grant covers the local match that we received, or for the grant that we received this month. The total award from the DFA is $455,261. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions on that.
Thank you, sir. I think it's I think between the last presentation and this one, I think this is pretty straightforward, but I'd like to ask the board if they have any questions. All right, not hearing or seeing any. If I can get a motion and a second to approve these matching funds.
Mr. Chair, I so move. Mayor Murillo.
Thank you, Mayor Murillo. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Mayor Padilla, thank you so much for the second. All right, we have a motion that's been moved and properly seconded. And David, if you can get a roll call
Yes.
on agenda item number 11.
On this item number 11, roll call with Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
Thank you. It
All right.
passes. Next item.
Thank you. Yes, sir, and thank you to the staff. Thank you for finding these funds. I think as Mayor Murillo says, it's very nice that we won't have to come up with additional funds out of our budget and definitely moving the district forward. So thank you for that. All right, agenda item number 12 is discussion and resolution approving $278,010.50 from the New Mexico Matching Grant for the fiscal year 2024 FTA 5307 Urban Grant Funds. Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chair. So the FTA 5307 grant is a formula grant that is awarded annually to SCRTD, with Sun Metro as the main recipient and SCRTD as a subrecipient. As approved by this board at the June 2024 meeting, SCRTD was awarded $630,149 for fiscal year 2024. The required local match for this grant is $278,010. However, staff also submitted this grant to the New Mexico DFA Match Fund grant call and was awarded the full amount to cover our local match. On the next slide, you'll see a project breakdown. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We had 6 different projects that were identified for the fiscal year 2024 funds. All of these, I believe, are going to be at the Sunland Park facility. So this would match, or this would cover our match on all those funds. Total of nearly $1 million between the federal and local match being covered to be invested in that new facility that we're purchasing. And with that, I'm here if you have any questions on that.
Board members?
Actually, I have one point, if I make. I appreciate you covering it quickly, but if you go back to the last slide.
Yes, sir.
So when we look at words like preventive maintenance, JARC funds, area required, and operating assistance, what this is actually doing is not for the facility per se, it's for the operations from that facility. So this is paying for the labor for those bus routes. So it's really supporting the yellow route, the silver route, and perhaps a little bit of funding for the purple route. So a lot of funding coming from there. And that allows us to have funds go elsewhere north, as we discussed earlier today, for the areas in Las Cruces, which includes the red route, the copper, and of course the green, which also is Hatch, and further up. So this makes a huge difference to us, being able to get these funds. And part of the reason we had the surplus you saw earlier today is that we were able to carry over funds from the 2 previous fiscal years of 2023 and 2022 that came in during the last year, and that's what Adam was doing in his updating his budget. But I also wanted Adam to talk about the MPO and the e-files. So you're also working through the TIP amendment to include all these. Maybe you can.
Yeah, so we've been working with my
Thank you.
former colleagues over at the MPO to make sure that these are updated and placed into the state planning documents. This would be the State Transportation Improvement Program. So this is federally required under federal law, that these things are planned out for a few years in advance. So we've been working closely with the El Paso MPO to make sure that these are properly amended into these documents so that these funds can be awarded as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And I think that's the end of that item.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Board members, any questions on this agenda item? Okay. Well,
Move to approve.
all right. We have a motion by Mayor Padilla. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Murillo. Thank you. Any last comments or questions? Okay, not hearing any. So please, David, if you'll take a roll call on the FTA 5307 matching funds.
Yes, this is item 12. Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
The item passes. Next item?
All right. Thank you, David. All right. Agenda item number 13. It's a discussion and resolution approving $493,393 for the Sunland Park Solar Array Electric Power Project through the NMDOT Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, or CMAQ program. Mr. McDaniel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a quick correction on this, and this is actually through the Surface Transportation Program, Large Urban. So we'll get that corrected. But so the El Paso MPO convened an ad hoc committee to review available funds that were still available for previous project calls for funds that were failed to be awarded through previous project calls. SCRTD was part of this committee and was able to request STPL, Surface Transportation Program, Large Urban Funds that were remaining, and the total amount of $493,393. Of that amount, $421,554.98 is the federal portion, and $71,838.02 is the local match that is required. Staff has submitted this grant for consideration in the New Mexico DFA Match Fund Program as well. but has not heard back one way or the other on that. Hopefully, we'll have news on that at the next meeting for you, specifically, or hopefully if it's approved. So the awarded funds are intended to design and construct a solar array on a portion of the land at the new Sunland Park facility. This project will supply power to our forthcoming electric bus and van fleet, while potentially contributing to the power needs of the rest of the facility, and even allowing SCRTD to potentially sell power back to the grid. And with that, I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. And I appreciate you clarifying that this is not CMAQ. This is actually for the STP funds.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Board members, are there any questions on this, on these funds that we are approving? All right. If I can get a motion to approve agenda item 13, which is to approve the $493,393 for the Sunland Park Solar Array Electric Power Project through the NMDOT STP. Is it still NMDOT STP?
Yes, yeah, the funding, it is federal funding that is being awarded via El Paso MPO and New Mexico DOT. So yes, NMDOT.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it was still through, it was still the NMDOT through STP. So, okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, if I get a motion and a second to approve, board members.
Mr. Chair.
Motion. I'll second.
All right, Mayor, it's been a motion by Mayor Murillo, second by Mayor Perea. Thank you all for that. All right, if we can get a roll call, David, please, on agenda item 13.
Yes, thank you. Item 13, Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee Lunenborg,
Yes.
and Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
right,
The
motion
item passes. Thank you.
All right, then now we're to agenda item number 14, our future agenda items. I know, David, you've spoken earlier today during public input on what we intend to see possibly at the next meeting, but I'll turn it over to you on this item.
Yes, what I can tell you is as far as future agenda items, we'll certainly have the HR manual. I think we'll probably separate as two separate items, the manual and the pay classification. I believe both items will be items for discussion, and then we'll look at approval the following month. We'll also talk about other elements of the grants, because there's still things that we're doing with those. I think with our approvals today, we've pretty well caught up with everything. But we're also now engaged with the state to transition the company to being a direct grant recipient. I've been sharing that information with the board, so we'll do an update on that. And then lastly, and we did submit for another New Mexico matching grant for the solar array, so hopefully we'll have some update on that. And then lastly, we've asked the state, and they seem to be prepared to fund us for a 10-year plan update. It's been 5 years since we initiated the last plan, 4 years since we completed it, but we did that during COVID, which was not too good. I know that Tim was working on the ICIP. We may end up bringing that back, even though that's already been in for approval. But we've made so many changes that it might itself be an item to have a discussion on. And I think, just talking about any other upcoming items that the board would like us to address as we go forward.
Okay. Board members, is there any input, as Mr. Armijo noted, for future agenda items? Okay. Well, I think, like I said, I think you've nailed most of them there. I think if there's anything else that the board members would look forward to, we can communicate with you, Mr. Armijo, prior to the posting of the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And that brings us to the last item and the end of our agenda, which is agenda number 15, which is our adjournment. If I can get a motion and a second to adjourn.
So move.
All right, I have a motion by Mayor Murillo. I'll second the motion. And with that, we'll call this meeting adjourned at 2:35 p.m. Thank you all for being so flexible. Thank you for allowing me to chair here remotely. And I hope everybody has a safe rest of your day, and we will see you all in August. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Commissioner.